Hello, hello, guys. How are you? All right, so let's chat. We are in a series of three, all right, and we are covering evaluations. So, triennial evaluations and reevaluations, okay? Look at my hair, it's all like crazy. Um, all spiky, all right? Yeah. So, whenever I get my hair is naturally curly, so whenever I get it straightened, it's all crazy. So, all right, so we're going to address this. We're summarizing this and getting it all together so that you can know everything you need to know in regards to this. Does that mean you're going to go to the IEP and you're going to knock it out of the park? I can't speak to that, but I can tell you, what you need to know in reference to these evaluations. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So if you are joining me, I know it's a Friday night, so who knows who's going to join me tonight, but I'm going to make it short and sweet for you since we already covered in 1 and 2 a lot of the meat. So post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. I know a lot of you have said to me that your notifications aren't working or you're not getting the notifications or something like that. More than likely you are getting the notifications, but if you're anything like me, on Facebook, you've clicked all types of different groups and stuff like that for notifications, so you're getting too many notifications, and so you're probably missing mine, just like you're probably missing theirs every once in a while too. So that if, I always tell people, go through your notifications of groups that you like and pick and choose, your top 10. And then you'll get notifications to whatever your top 10 is. All right, so post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure you say hi and make sure to share this so that other people can also learn, because the IEP process is no joke. It's no fun most of the time. And it is a lot of stuff to remember and do and implement, and how you need to plan and prepare and then present in the right way and then persuade and then negotiate if you have to. You guys know my trademark PPPN system. All right, so I teach all about that in Rock the IEP, the course. So we're going to first start with, all right, you get the results, okay? So yesterday we talked about what evaluations you should look for, ask for, and, get them to do. So then you get the consent form, and you should get a PWN that says, okay, these are the evaluations we agreed to. The information in regards to the evaluations, the names should be in either, I don't know why I keep getting some phone call. It's ridiculous. So you want to make sure that you get the information in regards to this, okay? So you want to make sure that everything in regards to the evaluation that you need to have, sorry about that, guys, that the information that you need is put into this PWN or the consent form. All right, so if in the consent form the names of the evaluations are not named in the consent form, make sure that they are named in the PWN, okay? Either is fine, but in the consent, make sure that it is checked off of the type of evaluation. So the psychoeducational, a adaptive behavior, all of those different types of things, okay? So just know that. The next thing I want you to know is when you get the evaluations is then done. They have 60 to 65 days in which to conduct these evaluations, okay? And then you have to meet, and then you go over these evaluations. All right. So one thing you want to make sure that you voice and get out to them is, I want these evaluations at minimum 7 business days before our IEP meeting. By law, per the idea, do they have to get you these evaluations 7 days before the IEP meeting? No. But then you can't participate as an adequate and equal team member in the IEP meeting if you don't have the information or enough time to review the information. So OSEP has put out a letter that says, hey, school systems, you need to get the parents the evaluations in advance so that they can review the information and properly be able to come to the meeting with their questions and their concerns and the things that are important for them to discuss at that meeting and that reevaluation meeting. And when the evaluators are going through the evaluations, you can kind of honestly have your questions written out in advance, okay? So that's important to remember. And you want to make sure that on the evaluations, they are equal to what was agreed in the PWN or in the consent form, whichever they put it into. All right, so you want to make sure that they are the same. So I've had school systems where they agreed on ABC evaluations, all right, and the names, and then they come back and say, oh, well, we thought this one was better. So that's why I always, like I said yesterday, I always say, put in any other evaluation the evaluator deems appropriate, because then they still have that availability, but they're still doing the ones that you want them to do, okay? So that's important to remember. So another thing I want you to keep in mind is you need to understand how to read these evaluations. I've gone through that before in one of my older videos. So if you go into videos and just look it up, I go into testing and assessments in that video on how to read the evaluations, what the standard score is, what does percentile mean, what does standard deviation mean, what does the mean mean? I mean, MEAN is in the middleman, the average, okay? So the average number is what? So that you know if the standard deviation, which is the line, okay, so if you're given a graph, like a triangle, or not a triangle, a rectangle, all right, and you have this line at the bottom, and then you have the mean in the middle, and then there's a number, okay? It could be 15, it could be 100, whatever. Then the standard deviation goes along that bottom line, and you have your negative goes that way, and your positive goes this way. So is your child in the middle? Are they advanced? Or are they below? Okay, so that's how it's measured. And then you have to figure out what their percentile is. And then a big question that I always tell people is you want to know, where did they score for themselves individually, not in comparison to age equivalent students. All right. So I don't care personally as a mother if my daughter scores with other children that are 15. All right. So if your child's in third grade, do you care if your 9-year-old, 10-year-old is scoring with other third graders? Are they average in comparison to other third graders? Or do you want to know specifically where your child is? All right, where they are. What grade equivalent are they at? Not in comparison to. So you need to ask that question. Are you comparing my child to third graders? Is this where my child falls within the third grade? Or, and is that nationally, or is that just in the school district? Or is this where my child ended third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, wherever they are, or less than, where they are grade equivalent? So if they're in third grade, but they tested on a first grade level or whatever, okay? So you need to find out, was it individual or was it in comparison to other children in that grade nationally or just in that school? What is that number and what does that number mean? What is it referencing? So don't just go by that number and think, oh, cool, you know, my daughter's average. No. Is your daughter average in comparison to the whole nation, or is your daughter average in comparison to her school? All right. And then the other thing is you want to find out where your child is individually, because I technically, as a parent, you think about this, what's important to you? All right, what's important to me may not be important to you. So do you care where your child scores nationally? Or are you like me and could care less where your child scores nationally or in their school district? And do you care about where they actually are within themselves individually? Okay, I care about where my child is individually. I don't compare myself to other people. I don't want my child compared to other people. And I don't care if my child scores average nationally or is below average nationally or is advanced nationally. I want to know where she is individually as a person, who she is, how did she score within herself, individually based. Okay? To me, that's what an IEP is about. I could care less where she falls nationally or how other, and it's, if your child's in third grade, then it's how did your child score nationally with other third graders. All right? Now, that may be something that you're curious to know. That's fine. But you also want them doing assessments in which they are able to gather numbers and data that is going to give you individual information, okay? Not just where they score nationally. I want to know where she is within her own self, okay? Where her grade equivalent is. I like that GE score versus the other score, like the standard scores and stuff like that, okay? So make sure that you are aware of what you're reading when you look at the assessments that are done, okay? So post a 1 below if you're joining now. If you are new, if it's your first through third time catching me live, or like Erin posted, she's a 2 below. So anybody that's an oldie but goodie, post a 2 below. So post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. After 3 times, you're an oldie, okay? So you'll post a 2 below. So that's the important part of assessments. But go back and watch my video on assessments on how to read them so that you're clear on how to read assessments, what they mean, what's important to understand, and understanding the whole picture. All right? So the next thing you want to understand is after you go through the evaluations, again, you want to ask for it 7 business days in advance. At minimum 3 business days in advance. That's what I ask for at minimum. But if I need it 3 business days in advance, someone that isn't as proficient in reading these and knowing exactly how to rummage through them, you need more time. I didn't know how to read this stuff, quickly in the beginning, or understand it or understand the verbiage. And I definitely didn't understand what standard scores meant or standard deviation and how there's some mathematical equation and all this crazy crap. I didn't understand all that in the beginning. I had to really study this stuff. You don't think that you have to study this stuff to understand evaluations. Hi, Amanda. But you do. It's crazy. All right. So you get this evaluation and you're like, oh God, some of them are very short. Don't like those. Typically I'll ask for an IEE if I get a short one. Or I'll get really good ones, like the one I told you guys about yesterday where I said I received a 51-page evaluation of a child where that evaluator did almost every evaluation on this child. Like, you got the whole picture, and that's the important part, is getting the whole picture. And, if you don't get the whole picture, then what's the point, and how are you going to create present levels? And if you don't have good present levels, your goals suck, all right? That's just straight up what it is. If you don't have good present levels, just know in advance, I'm telling you, your goals suck and they're not appropriate. And they're definitely not something that's created from a baseline because they're not accurate. Your present levels aren't accurate, which is like your baseline. It should say what your child's strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and then you're able to create goals accordingly, right? So if that's not straight, your goals aren't straight, okay? So that's one thing evaluations can do, is help you in creating that baseline and knowing the baseline, and then being able to really put in good present levels and creating really good goals and really having everything on point, which is so important, okay? That's what I want for you. So when you go through these evaluations and you have taken notes, and usually I'll upload them into a Google Drive. And then you can go into that Google Drive and click a plus button when you click on the evaluation. Make sure you label the evaluation, what you want it labeled, psychological, psychoeducational, whatever, speech, etc. And then you can click it and open it, and at the top right is the plus button. So you can highlight areas in your evaluation on each page, wherever it is that you want to take notes, and then you can make a note. And then you can do it again and again. And that's typically what I do when I go through things page by page. And I'm able to really establish a good baseline. I'm able to establish where that child is presently. Again, if it's a good evaluation. Again, if it's done, accordingly of how it's supposed to be done. Some evaluators obviously are better than others, And so I tell parents, go with your gut. And if you need an IEE and you feel insecure with the decision or the results, then you have to go with your gut and ask for an IEE. However, if you know what you want and you're confident in what you want is going to be much needed and is needed and appropriate for your child, you're more than welcome to push things a little bit and say, look, I don't like this evaluation. It's not accurate to what my child is doing. And I know this because of 1, 2, 3. Give them reasons. And then say, so I think I'm just going to ask for an IEE. And then you can say something like, but if you're willing to work with me and enter, 1 day a week speech versus saying my child doesn't qualify, then maybe we can work something out. It's all about negotiation. All right? It does go to prove it's all about money. You're going to find out really quick that it is. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay? It really just depends on if they too believe that the evaluation was just not exactly proficient. And I think that it can't hurt to get what you want. All right? But guess what? You can still go back and ask for an IEE. So why not get it into your IEP if they're willing? And then once it's in the IEP, if you're really kind of stuck on it not being adequate and you're feeling like, okay, we need more evaluations because it's going to tell us more, then you can go back and ask for an IEE. All right? So you kind of have two choices of, do I go and ask for an IEE, or do I kind of play things a little bit and say, hey, let's negotiate here. You don't want to say that, but you want to say, I really want to ask for an IEE, but if you're willing to work with me, because these are the things they need, and you got to know, guys, is it what they need? And they're home with you right now, most children, not all. And so you're the one who's been taking data. So a lot more pull is given to you because, and I should say power is given to you because you're the one that's home with them. So if your gut's saying, this isn't right, something's not right with this evaluation, then you need to then ask for an IEE. But you can also say, but these are the issues. This is why I'm saying this. This is why I don't think this evaluation is adequate or as adequate as it should be and appropriate for my child and accurate. That maybe your child had a bad day and it wasn't the right time. So you need to feel your team out. Are they willing to give you what you want because you have the data and you have the information, and then you wait off on the IEE, but you use that as your playing card? Hey, I'm thinking about asking for IEE. Will you do this instead? And then if you're happy, then leave it like that. Or if you're not, then go back and ask for the IEE. Okay? So that's just important. You have to know how to negotiate. You have to be on your toes. You have to know how to negotiate. And you have to be able to be proficient with it. It's not easy. And you have to understand that you have more experience than most negotiators do. You know, you're the parent. You know this child inside and out. So you can't second guess the things that you want to say because you want to be tactful. All right? This isn't the time to be tactful. This isn't the time to watch how you say something. All right? So if it comes out in a way that may sound rude, so what? Okay? That doesn't mean you're trying to be rude or disrespectful. It just means that it's coming out how it is, how you feel at that moment. It's not personal. Okay? And sometimes the truth is what it is. You know, you got to say it how it is. You can't deviate from what the truth is, and you can't deviate from facts. And if facts are offensive, then so what? You know, you're either friends or you're an advocate. You got to pick. There is no middle line. Anybody that tells you there's a middle line is full of crap. Okay? I want you to have a good relationship with your team. I want it to be positive, but I would be lying to you if I said that that is more than likely how it's going to be. It's not in the beginning. Could it get there? Sure. Is it maybe there now and now you're going to advocate and it's not going to be there anymore? Is that going to be a fear that you have? Are you going to be controlled by fear, or are you going to go for it and advocate for your child? You have to make that decision. I can't make that for you. You have to make the decision, and you have to be the one to be confident in that. And you have to really pay attention to, do I know what I'm doing or do I not? And if you don't know what you're doing, then ask for help and be okay with asking for help, because you're going to learn one way or another, but asking for help is not taking away from you becoming even more knowledgeable. In fact, it could actually make you more knowledgeable. So just know that and be easy on yourself. But know that the goal is to get along. The goal is to, come to a happy place, okay? But a lot of times, I'm just going to be frank with you, a lot of times when they're giving in, it's not because they want to. They don't just go laying out speech and OT on a silver platter, all right? When you know damn well your child needs it and they're not giving it, So I always go back to, I'm not a, negative nanny or whatever the hell it's called. I'm not. But at the same time, I'm not going to, I've seen, other advocates. I'm not talking about anybody at all. I don't do that. But I've seen, I've watched other people and seen their demeanor and seen how they are. And, I've found that I am so different than so many advocates out there. But I'll tell you this, I love it. I love being different. I love the fact that I'm very successful in what I do and get it done. Does it always happen the first time? I think I've told you guys, no, not always. But when we go back to the table, it gets done. But a lot of times it does happen from the get-go. But bottom line, it's all about getting the job done. It's not about, trying to always get along, okay? If I were to choose between getting your child what's needed and appropriate and getting along with your team, I'm going to choose what's needed and appropriate. Do you see what I'm saying? So you got to understand that it's not per se a let's all get along. It's be cordial. Come together as a team and work together if you can. If not, then you got to take charge and set the tone. All right? And I hope when I'm on the page that educators, and not just educators, because it really doesn't come down to the teachers, honestly. They're the innocent ones, typically. It's administration, okay? And they're the ones who run the teachers, all right? I've had so many teachers come across, and they're amazing. And then the administrators come in, and the teacher totally changes. And it's unfortunate. My daughter's a teacher. She's told me straight up that that's what's going on right now. It happens all the time. She's like, Mom, it happens all the time. They have to, Teachers can't take data like you want data taken. And, if you think that data's going to be taken like that, you're crazy. And she's not a special ed teacher, but she knows how it is. So my job, I have found being 500% transparent with parents is once parents start to realize that it's really not all about a relationship, you start to wake up. It's more about being cordial, not so much about a relationship. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean be rude and nasty and evil and, cuss them out. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you want to be, it's kind of like, how you can say, oh, we're acquaintances. So you can be people that talk every once in a while because you have to. You are cordial in an IEP meeting. Respect is given when respect is received. And you go about things like that. When a lot of advocates will say, oh, we need to have a good relationship and we need to establish this relationship, et cetera, I have to say I disagree. The reason I disagree is because when you start to establish this 100% trust, then you're leaving yourself vulnerable. And that is a tactic that is used. And I just warn you and caution you to be cautious and knowingly know that that is something that can happen. Do I mean all the time or every time or always? No. But what I want you to be is mindful. I want you to be aware. I want you to have it in the back of your mind that if you let your guard down too much, you're going to get burned. Actually, let me take that back. Your child is going to get burned because what happens is you create this trust because they're being so nice, and then it comes down to you finding out, because I've heard this one too many times, where you find out something wasn't implemented or something wasn't done or something happened and you were not told about it. Something goes on and you lose your shit. And so you're then, Mama Bear comes out, Papa Bear comes out, Grandma Bear comes out, and you are on their butt at that moment because something happened, okay? And then what happens there? That niceness goes away because you're all of a sudden advocating, even after you may have gotten along for a period of time, okay? And you're frustrated even more because you had let your guard down and now feel that guilt of, man, I didn't pay attention as much. I let my guard down and let things go because things were going so great. I let things down and my guard down, and I didn't follow up as much. I didn't email as much. I didn't check the data as much. I didn't ask for this, that, and the other because we were getting along and that felt good. And then what happened? Something happened. You then flip shit. And that feeling is now gone. So not only are you feeling guilty, but you're feeling disappointed because you thought in your mind that things were awesome and they're your friend. So I caution you with that. So I'm not negative nanny. I'm just, wake up. Get with the program here. This is not something that you're going to always agree on. More than likely, you're going to always have some confrontation with it. So you need to be mindful. So I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. I'm not saying that something's going on wrong. I'm just simply saying be mindful. If you are not knowledgeable about things, okay, then you're not going to be mindful about them because you don't know. If you're not knowledgeable about things, you're not going to be able to be one step ahead of the game, which you have to be. Yesterday we talked about, how you have to, know the school system's argument before you go in to present and persuade. Because You want to make sure that you can solve their problem when you are in your IEP meeting. If you can solve a problem, then how can there be a hiccup? And so you solving their problem gives you back the power to request what you need to request because you solved their problem. They should have no other problem. So you want to make sure that you're mindful, okay? So I'm not negative Nanny. I'm just going to tell you how it is. The experiences that I've had over almost 15 years. Again, it's not always or never, but it is a lot, okay? So moving on, just remember you're a negotiator, okay? Make sure that when you're negotiating, sure, the first thing you want to look for is a win-win, all right? But is everything in life a win-win? No, that's not life. But if you can have a win-win, then that's the angle and the direction you want to go, okay? One thing I will say is when you're reviewing evaluations, say you're ticked off, things aren't working, someone's mad, things aren't going good, you want to make sure that even in IEP meetings that you don't blame anybody because in all honesty, you don't know who is to blame. All right. The school system's to blame, but not any one person is to blame. So what I try to do is say, look, we got a problem here. I don't care whose fault it is. We just need to fix it. So I'm not here to blame. I'm not here to point fingers, but I'm here to solve this problem because there's a problem here and we need to solve it right now. So I just want you to know I'm not blaming you, but we need to solve the problem as a team. So I'll say something like that so that they know, hey, I'm not blaming you, but hey, we need to get this done. This is serious. I don't know what happened. I don't know who dropped the ball. I don't really care who dropped the ball. What I care about is we fix it. Okay? So that's what's important. And when I say understand what the school district's position is, you need to make sure that you understand their perception. What is their goal? All right? Why are they suggesting what they're suggesting and trying to convince you that kind of what you're thinking is out in left field? And you want to make sure that you understand what their fear is because they have fear too. For some reason, lately, IEEs are a fear. I don't know why. I have no clue why. But I've noticed when I bring up IEEs, they're like, well, let me relook at them. I have a school system in California who said, let me relook at the information. Can we hold off? I think I told you guys about this. Can we hold off on requesting the IEE and let us re-review it? Sure, no problem. But I just found it funny that I bring up an IEE and all of a sudden you want to re-review it. Why didn't you review it at the time? You know, it's just very fishy when that happens. But you know what? You wanna re-review it because I asked for an IEE? Sure, I'll give you a week. But those are kind of the games that they're playing, you know? And so I always say, be one step ahead of the game, okay, of everything going on, all right? If you are one step ahead of the game, you are going to be in a good place. And is it unfortunate that it has to be like that? Yeah, it is. Is it unfortunate that you have to be on your toes and you have to feel like you're always on edge? Would maybe be a good word for it. Tell me a good word for it. You guys know, everybody who's joining, make sure you post a 1 below if it's your first or third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. But seriously, post below for me. I challenge you. Post below what it is that you feel when you're on your toes all the time, that you feel like you have to babysit them. That's a word I use all the time. Even in my last IEPs, a couple years ago, walking on eggshells. Yeah. Realistic Raven, not negative here. Yeah. I mean, you got to just keep it real with it. I mean, if very seldom have I come across very, compassionate IEP teams, and that's where my advocacy comes from, and why it's very different is I don't go in to be friends. I don't go in to create some sort of relationship. I don't want to have a relationship with them. Do you? Now, as far as like maybe the teacher, that's different. But as far as everybody else, I don't care about having a relationship with them. You shouldn't either. You shouldn't stress that. I feel you. But yeah, I mean, what district are you in, Erin? Because dear God, if you call me, girl, probably been there. But you guys just need to know that I don't want you feeling guilty. I don't want you being that mom who's calling me in tears feeling like you failed your child. And one way to prevent that, not that you may not call me, but that you're not going to feel like you failed your child or something really screwed up or whatnot, is if you can separate yourself from the IEP team. Meaning, you walk in, I've said, you walk into the IEP meeting, or you turn on Zoom or Google Meet, and you have to be a different person. You're a loving, compassionate person, an advocate for your child, but we're not friends. And that's the thing that confuses me about some advocates is they say it's all about creating relationships and all of that kind of thing. So I've thought about that many times. I've actually really thought about that. But no, I'm not. I'm there for my child. I'm not there to create a relationship with you. We're going to be acquaintances for some time, and we're going to be acquaintances that talk often in regards to an individual. We're going to be acquaintances that have hopefully mutual respect or not. And we're going to be acquaintances that hopefully have that person's best interest. And we're going to be acquaintances that have to be respectful in some way, shape, or form if it's reciprocated. So that's how I look at it. Not let's create this relationship, It's not that, because relationships are all about, being kind to one another, and, you get to know each other, and you care for each other and respect each other's individuality, that you're not the same, you're not going to think the same way, and so on and so forth. But it's not creating a relationship when you actually have to fight for your child's needs. In my mind, I look at it like if the interest of the child was put at the forefront, there wouldn't be millions of parents of children with special needs children who are ready to lose their ever-loving mind with the school systems. There wouldn't be so many parents who feel that they've failed their child like I did, for so many years. There wouldn't be so many parents who are not knowledgeable of the IEP process. And again, that's not your fault. Did you know the school system's actually supposed to inform you and teach you about the laws and what your rights are? But instead, they want to say, hey, do you want me to read you your procedural safeguards? They don't read the procedural safeguards. That's a 100-page document. I didn't read my child's procedural safeguards every page until she was 8 or 9 or maybe even 10. So when they say, do you want me to read your procedural safeguards? In IEP meetings, I'll say, yeah, sure. Are you going to read 8 pages or all 100? How many are you going to read? Because if you're going to give us our procedural safeguards, then you need to read the whole thing. It's stupid, right? That just sounded stupid? I think it sounded stupid. So in my mind, I'm like, just say, can I give you your procedural safeguards? Would you like to receive it? But don't tell me you're going to read them to me and just at the beginning of the IEP meeting, because you're not going to read them to me. But I'll tell you this, read those damn things. All right? Read them. Every page. Several times. Okay? I'll tell you, it was enlightening when I read my procedural safeguards for the first time. It was crazy. I was like, what? These are my rights? No way. I had no idea. But it's interesting. All right? So I want you guys to just be mindful. I want you to make sure you get the right evaluations. Know that you can ask for evaluations at any time, as long as it's no more than once a year, unless there's a reason. And that if you're not happy with the evaluations, then ask for an IEE. One thing you need to make sure you understand is the triennial evaluations. I've said many times, don't wait 3 years. Don't do that. Because if it comes back and you find out that your child has regressed or there's been no progress at all, you're going to kick yourself in the butt that you didn't do those evaluations every year, that you didn't change those present levels or their goals, and that you didn't, pay attention more, or feel like you didn't pay attention more, or didn't know how to pay attention more because you didn't know what to look for. So that's why evaluations are crucial. Now, something that I will say, and I've said this before, I said it yesterday, is if you're getting tons of data with your progress reports, which, let's face it, you're not, right? If you are, you've got to call me, because that's crazy. I think that's awesome, but I doubt that I'm going to get a call. But you need to, hopefully, my goal for parents that I work with is to get the data supporting those progress reports every 9 weeks. Okay? And with that, and then you have evaluations every year, year and a half at max, then you're really able to get a whole picture, and your IEPs stay adequate, and the present levels are where they should be and are accurate, and the goals can then be established in the right way with the right information and the accurate information that is going to give them goals that they can be challenged with, but are appropriate for them. A goal that I had put in place earlier today, I had to say to the team, are you saying that you don't want it at this number because you don't want to challenge the child? Or are you saying you don't want it at this number because you guys proposed 6 out of 7 or 5 out of 6 or something like that? And I said 8. So I said, my goal is to challenge this child. If you don't get there, you don't get there, but your goal is to get there, So if you don't feel like you can get there, then let me know now. And of course, they kept the goal. But you need to make sure your teams are challenging your children. Don't go for, I don't know if my child can do this. If your child cannot do it at all, okay. But if it's going to push them a little bit, push them out of their comfort zone a little bit, and get them somewhere that they can more than likely get, then do that. Don't settle for, okay, my child can get here. All right? Focus on, can my child really get here? Let me give them this, and let's see where they go, how far they can go. All right? So have those challenges in place for them. The goal is to challenge them. It's in the idea for them to be challenged, and that the school's supposed to challenge them. So make sure that that's done, and make sure that you're able to know if you are challenging them. And there's no way to know that unless you are doing evaluations and unless you're having and receiving that data at minimum every 9 weeks with your progress report. All right? I've told you this before, you don't want a progress report that just says, mastered, satisfied, whatever, and then some notes. What does that tell you? Nothing. Okay? So I'm going to post in just a few minutes over in the group. For those of you who don't know, I have a group. It's Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. Put it in the search bar. Join if you haven't. I'm going to put Picture Friday up. I always do that every Friday. And that's when you put pictures of your amazing children. in the group under post. So I'm going to do that in a few minutes. And again, if you haven't joined the group, just put in the search bar Autism Mom Rocks IEP group. Make sure you join. It's an amazing group with a great community. And today is wrapping up the series on triennials and evaluations. If you have questions, say you think of something later, post them below and make sure to tag me so I know to respond to that, okay? Because I get a lot of messages. So if I miss somebody's message, it's not personal. It's because I just didn't see it. So make sure you tag me and join the group. I get a lot more messages there that I'm able to see a lot quicker than, because it goes to my inbox, like if you messaged me, like personal messaged me, versus the business page, this page, it goes to a different place. I just want to thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend. I will be back on here on Monday, and we will start a new series. Can't wait till that happens because it's going to be super great, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about. So you'll have to wait and see. And don't forget, Tuesdays is the Q&A session on the group. That's when I don't talk about anything. Okay, well, I do. I talk about stuff all the time because I love this stuff and I always talk about it, but it's your time to ask questions and I answer it. So if anything, join the group for that, okay? And I will talk to you guys pretty soon on Monday. And if you have questions, like I said, just post them below and I will talk to you soon. Bye.